Hi, welcome to my channel. This is a part of the conscious trailers section. So what I'm going to do is review a film, give some things about it that might not be so obvious, and kind of do a little bit of a breakdown. The idea behind it is also to bring more awareness into the things we watch, and I felt like what is the best way to start this than by doing one on my hair is so messed up. Then by doing one on law of attraction, because ultimately this is the reason why you might want to reconsider what you watch, or you might want to be just in a more aware or conscious state when you consume different media, because it's just so easy for our mind to internalize different messages. And sometimes it's so unconscious because ironically, while I'm going to be reviewing the films on law of attraction, and particularly the newest version of The Secret, which I really liked because it has been put not into a documentary style but something more just, I'm a big fan of show rather than tell. And while it's great to kind of have different experts and people talk about and break down certain concepts, it's also great to just watch something and get the idea through the storytelling rather than and like a situation and observing how things happen in real life, rather than somebody just kind of speaking to that. So I really liked this new version of it. And but ironically, even in this version, like even in the films that are supposed to reflect this very idea of the law of attraction and how things get attracted to each other, even then there is this I don't want to say danger, but we unconsciously introduce our own biases and ideas and just the contents of our mind into art and things that we produce. I bet even in this video or like my YouTube channel, there's going to be some things and unconscious elements that I'll introduce sometimes, not even knowing this. But of course, that's why it's like, apart from my perfectionism, this is why it's also has been a bit of a struggle for me to do this and to start this, because I'm very aware that I don't want to bring more of my own perceptions and things for others to consume and to take as their own. But long story short, let's get into it. So there are 3 things that I really liked about this movie. And there's one major thing that I have disliked, and the dislike part I'll talk about a little bit more in the end. But it's basically speaks to the idea of how, some common threads and patterns that we probably have in ourselves or collectively, come through in movies and other forms of media, and then we internalize. But first things first, so one thing that I really loved is symbolic metaphors, and I feel like the whole movie in a sense is a metaphor, because it doesn't really, I don't remember that the movie itself ever names it as a law of attraction. It doesn't really very explicitly speaks to it, except for like a certain little moments when the main character, oh my god, I was gonna say his name, but I forgot his name. Both the actor and the character. I'm a little bit bad with names, but anyway, the main character, he speaks to the concept in such way, and this is one of the very beautiful scenes in this movie, is the magnet scene, and is when he uses a magnet to express the invisible power and the invisible force that attracts our thoughts and creates our reality, that transforms our thoughts and makes it into reality. So I'm just gonna show that's fun.
Wind scares me.
Well, nature can be very powerful, but So are you.
Me? No way.
Oh, yes, you are. But we have to be careful because we get what we expect.
Mommy, is that true?
What, honey?
What do you call this?
A crab riding a bike?
What else?
A magnet.
Which attracts things with a force that you cannot see, but is definitely real. Your thoughts work the same way.
So yeah, this is really powerful, and I love the fact that it's also a scene where he explains it to kids. So it's kind of like, it doesn't have to be that crazy conspiracy theory guy who's like, oh, let me tell you about how reality works, and just like bring all these very like dense theoretical concepts to you, which I love to read those things, and I love to think about those things myself, and even have debates with people around it. But I also sometimes I feel like it's so mind level that the best way to sometimes describe an idea is almost like, let me show you rather than tell you.
The more you think about something, the more you draw it to you.
Okay, so this is me thinking about pizza. Are you really being serious right now?
I like when the cheese is so melted and gooey.
And what about you?
Pepperoni and sausage. Ooh, and stuffed crust. That's what makes it.
Okay, I've got a medium cheese and medium pepperoni with stuffed crust for Miranda Wells.
Did you do this?
Don't look at me.
You have the right name, but we did not order those.
A guy named Tucker called it in. Even left a tip because of the storm.
Oh, that was so nice. Thank you.
Stay dry.
You too. Thanks.
And although it wasn't like intentional with the whole pizza thing, and this is also something I want to speak to, I have mixed feelings about that particular part of the scene, because I find that there is usually a time delay in manifestations. So the thoughts or feelings need to gain momentum to actually cultivate that energy so it comes to reality. But then at the same time, arguably, myself, I had times in my life where manifestation would just be so quick. Like within minutes, it's just something that I think about, and reality kind of brings it back to me. And probably because it has been in my subconscious mind before then, so it was already gaining momentum on the background, and then it entered conscious mind, and then within minutes it entered physical reality. So that could totally happen. And I think that also, but in a movie it's a little bit, so I was watching it with someone who is not very familiar with this concept at all, so I felt like it makes it a little bit hard to believe, like just the time delay. It's almost like there is no time delay at all, like when the pizza man knocks on the door. But then again, like there is this line between intuition also, and I wonder if the reason they start talking about pizza and the main character, like why he brought up the topic of pizza. I mean, it was relevant logically because they were talking about that, they were hungry, they were in the kitchen, but maybe it was also some sense of intuition, because sometimes that's what happens too. And I find, as a writer myself also, I find whenever I go to like a writing place, like a writing meetup with a few people who are writing, I almost feel like there is this common collective consciousness, and you almost like tap into the same vocabulary or words because it's all like floating there invisibly. But let's not get into that. It's just, I could talk about it for ages. So the second thing is, that I really liked about it, and I feel like this is the second scene in the movie that probably, you know, reflects these concepts very well as well. But ironically, the second scene in this movie that reflects this concept very well, but I feel like it can also be a little bit confusing for some people, especially those who are not familiar with the concept. They might just not really get the meaning of it. And I think the reason I understood it in the way I did is because I just have so much knowledge about law of attraction. Sometimes the knowledge that gets in the way of faith, and that's something I wrote about. Yeah, like sometimes I feel like we don't really need to know all the hows, and almost like just know that it works like the magnet does. Like I never googled how do the magnets work and what makes it hold all the items in my fridge, you know, but I just trust it. You know, I don't really need to know. I can see it's happening, I just trust it. And I think it's a similar thing with the law of attraction. I saw it happen so much in my life, and maybe there is this fascination with the mystery of it, and the fact that there are so many people that are still not familiar with the concept and living their lives in an unknown way, an unconscious way. And yeah, and there is this kind of fascination, but is it really true? And it's almost like the mind that is trying to figure it out, to figure out all the hows. But sometimes that house, it kind of kills the magic in some way. It just, you get so caught up in the formula almost that you forget to trust it. You rely on your own kind of, not even trust, it's more like a sense of control because you know how it works. It's almost like I'm trying to, you know, engineer the magnet while I already have one there, and you know how I really need to do anything. So that's also a bigger topic to talk about, but let's watch this scene.
Good luck with the LSAT.
Thanks. I'll need it.
Let me ask you something. Can you see yourself being a lawyer?
Yeah, definitely.
Then so can I.
Okay, so I love this scene because I feel like it's something that all of us can do more, and it's such an easy way to bring this concept into the life of a stranger without, you know, having to pull out I don't know, a book and try to like, oh, you know, this because sometimes we don't have the luxury of having those deep conversations with someone, like with people we come across. But also it's, you know, like again, it's not like a religion, it's not like a worldview that you need to kind of get someone's buy-in on. It's just something that, you know, works, and in the same way as magnets do. Like, you know, sometimes we don't need to know those things. So yeah, but I kind of want to break down this scene. So I really liked how he asked the administrator girl whether she can imagine herself, and I think this is a scene that also underlines the concept that it's not just your thoughts, because earlier in the magnet scene he was talking about the thoughts, but really what happened there and with the whole pizza, they were really feeling it and imagining it. They was like, oh, I like this cheese and I like this crust, and I like, you know, they were like embodying the feeling. And that is really what you want to get to. Like, that is what creates the reality. It's not so much the thoughts themselves. And the original Secret documentary talks about this actually, and also illustrates this concept pretty good.
As you go about your day, the law of attraction is working in every second. Everything we think, everything we're feeling is creating our future. If you're worried, if you're in fear, then that's bringing more of that into your life throughout the day. Whatever you're thinking and feeling today is creating your future.
You're getting exactly what you're feeling about, not so much what you're thinking about. That's why people, if they stub their toe out of bed, they tend to spiral.
The inquiry into police corruption.
The whole day goes like that, you know? They have no clue that a simple shifting of their emotions can change their entire day and life. If you start out having a good day and you're in that particular happy feeling, as long as you don't allow something to change your mood, you're going to continue to attract, by the law of attraction, more situations, circumstances, people that sustain that happy feeling. Good days, bad days, rich get richer, poor get poorer. It's all about what these people are predominantly and continually feeling.
So, yeah, there are a few clips on that. But for this one too, it's really like, she just needs to feel it and what it is to be at the place that you want to be, as if you're already there. In her case, it's being a lawyer, and the interesting thing here is also how we unconsciously, I would say just unintentionally say things that we don't really mean, that are just things to say. It's like, oh yeah, I'll need it. It's like, yeah, good luck, I'll need it. You know, those kind of things is just, I guess, it's not that she doubts so much herself. Maybe there is a sense of doubt, but it's like this identification with, this is hard, you know, this is really hard. And it might be hard, it might be really hard studying for LSATs, I imagine it could be. But the identification with it creates the idea that, like, yeah, I need the luck, like, it's gonna be so difficult, like, and then that creates doubt. But then with him bringing that concept of, like, can you imagine yourself there, it's almost like making a leap already, like not focusing on what you need to do and how hard it's going to be, but focusing on the feeling, how you will feel when you're there and where it will get you. And I feel like that is what kind of clears the energy and brings things to you, the ones that you want. Yeah, I really love this, and I feel like I'm definitely going to be using it more on people and strangers, in a sense. Just let them feel how they want to feel, instead of, you know, being focused on what they don't want to be feeling. And I have a personal story to share here. Not to make this video very long, but a few years back, before COVID, I feel like this is just needs to be said now, but I was flying to visit my family, and I had a few layover flights, and usually I don't take flights with layover, but for some reason there was no other route, or maybe I wanted to save some money. There was something that I took a different route that I usually do, and I regretted it so much because I remember, I think I already did like a 9-hour flight, and then I had a layover for a few hours, and I had another 5-hour flight, and it was a layover, and then I had to take another 10-hour flight, and it was just so much all at once, and I was just exhausted, and yeah, I just didn't even anticipate how bad it's going to be. But I feel like at that point, even though I knew about law of attraction, I just feel I wasn't so immersed in these concepts, and also I wasn't thinking about it intentionally. I was just so tired, like so exhausted, that I was just laying, waiting for the final, like I usually go for the final call, because I just want everyone to kind of pass and to go and board the plane, to be the last person to board. And usually I have, well, it's probably like more of a European concept when you do have mostly your seats are assigned, they're like international flights, it's not a thing that, you won't get a seat. So yeah, I had assigned seats, and I was just waiting for the final call, and I was just so tired. I stretched out my legs on airport seats, and I was just laying there, and I wasn't even thinking how bad it is, because I just couldn't. Like, I feel like I wanted to escape the reality, and I had no means of doing so because I was so tired. So I couldn't, I didn't even feel like I have the energy to be on my phone, to listen to music, to read a book, to talk to someone. Like, I had no energy for that, for my usual escapes. And I think what I was trying to do, it was the only thing that would make me feel better is imagining how I'm gonna be back home here in Canada, in Toronto, and how I also had a friend who said he might come pick me up, but it wasn't 100% confirmed, but I imagined that he would, and I imagined how I'll just come and sit at the front seat and stretch out my legs, and I'll just and I'll just stretch out, and it'll be so great and amazing, and then I'll sleep on my way home, and then he wakes me up, and I go to my apartment, and I have this amazing comfy bed that is all made out for me and stuff. And it was kind of close to what could have happened, but I was just indulging in this fantasy of what it could be. And it wasn't even for that long, I guess. I don't know, maybe how long it was, 30 minutes, 20 minutes. I wouldn't say that I was so focused on it. I guess that's another thing. I wasn't trying to get anywhere with it. I wasn't oh, I'm consciously doing this. So, not that it wouldn't work, but sometimes it's hard for you to get into a feeling when you're so much in your mind identified with oh, I want to get something out of it. So for me, it wasn't like that. I was just I need to escape this moment. And as I go to board my flight, they call for final call, and they scan my ticket, and I could see a red beep. And at that moment, within seconds, my mind went to oh, I can't board the plane. And I wasn't even upset. My first thought was I can go to stay in a hotel, and they can just book me a hotel and get me on a flight even tomorrow. I don't care, because I was so tired, and I didn't really have to be anywhere. I think I was flying in with a few days left before I had to be back to school. So it wasn't a big deal. So yeah, and then they say they're fully booked, they double book themselves, and they say, well, we will have to upgrade you to a first class. And I was so happy. It was an international 10-hour flight, so first class meant that it's actual bed. You can literally sleep there. And I couldn't believe it. And I think one day in that moment I realized what happened, how I just attracted that with my energy, with my thoughts, with what I was imagining. And I think what I was imagining was comfort, and the feeling of it was comfort, and comfort came to me. So yeah, I guess that's what was, it's one of such examples of how you can embody the feeling, and how you need to focus on how you're already there versus all the things that you had to get through to get there. Because I could have focused on how I still need to spend 10 hours on this flight, and what can I do in this time, and how can I make my misery less. And I could be oh, and then I'll have to go through security, and I could do that, right? And that probably it probably wouldn't kind of attracted the same thing. So yeah, that's one of the stories that happened to me among many of them. So moving on to another thing in the movie.
Hi. I'm looking for Bray. Oh, I'm afraid he's not here. He had to take care of some business out of town. Would you like to leave a message? Oh, no. I was just in town and thought. Actually, could you tell Miranda Wells stopped by?
You're Miranda?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're the reason he's not here. I'm his sister, Jennifer. I've heard so much about you.
You have?
Yes! And he's probably knocking on your front door right now.
Come on, Hannah.
All right.
Oh my gosh, you're doing it. You're doing it.
Oh, you see that? You see that?
I'm carrying it in my hand. Are we expecting anybody?
The third thing, it's kind of double-edged. It's something that I like, but I both didn't like. I like this theme because, well, again, without a breakdown, it might not be very obvious, but I feel like if somebody is very, curious and analytical, as I am, they might be asking questions and being like, well, if they focus on, getting what they want, and then why did the last scene happen in the way it did? So the scene was that he comes to see her and at the same time she goes to see him, and in that way they kind of miss each other. And I think what happened in that scene is that both of their focus, maybe hers so much because he seems to be immersed in the other concepts, but the focus was on a lack, right? Like, I don't have this person right now and I want to be with them, but the focus, like the energy is like, I'm not with this person, so create more of that. And literally just by going there at that moment is that, makes the other person leave. And even though he goes to see her, they still miss each other. And while it kind of worked out well in a sense that, he got to talk to her mother-in-law and she got to meet his sister, there are always kind of benefits to why things happen the way they do. But at the same time, I feel like that's a nice way to show the flip side of how your energy, how sometimes when we want something and we focus on the lack of it, we actually create more of that lack, and things just don't work out at the same time. And I feel like this is the hardest part about separation and breakups too, because I feel like what happens is people focus even further on being away from this person, the universe kind of draws them even further apart. And sometimes it's needed, and sometimes I feel like also your energy, right? When you met this person, you might have been a match because both of your energy was aligned to fear, for instance, right? So even though you might have not been a very fearful state and not consciously aware of it, but it was aligned in such way, and then one of you starts to make a leap and just be more in a happy and love state, you're not, there is a mismatch. Your magnets almost don't draw together because it's a mismatch. So in such way, universe also tends to draw people away from us. And but the thing that I guess I didn't like in this scene and overall in the movie itself, I was really hoping that it won't go there, it won't finish in this romantic sense, and it ended up being that. And when she came to see his place and it was his sister, I first thought it was his wife or someone. I didn't want it to be the romantic connection between them, precisely because it kind of recreates that savior relationship dynamic. It's almost one person comes and saves the other, and we don't see all the struggle and all the other things for her because she has been living with certain ideas in her mind for quite a while, right? And even if she's on board with those concepts, it takes time to implement them. And this is just one of the things that we see so often in the movies. We don't see the process, but we see the end. And sometimes it's so unrealistic because, you know, it's, yeah, like there is so much behind what is the end result. And this is why sometimes people give up easily on their goals or dreams and stuff, because it just feels like, well, it's not happening right away, so then it will never happen. And in this particular example, it just felt very, yeah, like to me it felt like, well, I feel like her problems did solve themselves out, but it was partly, I guess, because she did practice those concepts, also those money, they were coming to them, and she was able to kind of stand and decide what she wants, not like wanting to be with that other guy and to kind of, you know, like make that decision and stuff, and she wants to go back to school. All those things are great, but yeah, like I just really dislike the whole dynamic of, you know, like savior kind of thing. And I think it kind of replicates a big dynamic in our culture, and the whole, like, you know, yeah, like a princess that has to be, like, you know, somewhere caged or something, and has to be, and then the prince comes and saves her. And I think it's so, it resonates on so many levels with so many people, because it's embedded in so many movies and so much of a popular culture. But it's a very, like, I feel like it can be a very unhealthy idea too, because even watching this, instead of almost like, or even practicing law of attraction, but then again attracting someone and hoping that a relationship itself will save you from yourself almost, but it never will. You're the only person who can save yourself. And I feel like that's the difficult part that we don't get to see in this movie, and maybe for a reason, but I think this is one thing that I always see, and I wish we did see more of how much internal work it is to, you know, reprogram your own mind, to get your life together. And of course, like, support of other people is great and sometimes essential, but it's not that, you know, one day someone comes into your life and then within a few days it's like, you know, everything changed and you're a different person. I just didn't like that. And I think I'll make another actually theme trailer on the savior relationship dynamic in movies and cartoons in general, because I have just been observing it so much. But then I also feel like this is another thing with making videos and doing this channel even, because I'm like, well, what is the feeling I'm going to feel more of by making this? And then what is the feeling people who's going to watch this going to feel more of? Because on one hand, it's like, yeah, sure, it's entertaining and it's interesting to the mind, but I don't want to kind of feel more of that feeling of being saved, right? And that kind of unequal, unbalanced relationship. So I might instead make the opposite of that and find I'll just maybe speak to that and give a few examples in movies that you can see this dynamic, and make the opposite of that and find a few rare examples where that's not the case and where there is a more of that realistic, balanced perspective of a conscious masculine and feminine coming together in a union, rather than, I guess, almost like replicating the childhood wounds and, yeah, I guess, father and daughter and love and approval. Thank you for watching. I will end this with a short clip, and yeah, I wish you to feel more of what you desire and embody that feeling as much as you can.
You want to focus on what you want, not what you don't want. It's okay to notice what you don't want because that gives you contrast to say, well, this is what I do want. But the fact is that the more you talk about what you don't want or talk about how bad it is, read about all of that all the time, and then say, oh, how terrible it is, well, you're creating more of that.
You know, so many times people say to me, well, James, I have to be informed. Maybe you have to be informed, but you don't have to be inundated.
I always say when the voice and the vision on the inside become more profound and more clear and loud than the opinions on the outside, you've mastered your life.
Learn to become still and to take your attention away from what you don't want and all the emotional charge around it and place the attention on what you wish to experience. Energy flows where attention goes.